Hey everybody, I have filmed another tutorial using the Kat Von D Serpentina palette. Unfortunately, my footage before and after got corrupted or went bye-bye. I don't know where it went. But either way, I still have the footage from the actual tutorial and I'm going to be talking you through it, so stay tuned for yet another fall tutorial. So I started this tutorial using the Jordana Complete Coverage 2-in-1 Concealer and Foundation. I applied this directly to a brush and I wet it with the NYX Matte Finishing Spray. This really helped to loosen up that foundation because personally I find that foundation just a little too thick and I wanted to thin it out a little bit. Because it's also a concealer, it was really high coverage and I just wanted slightly sheerer coverage for the look I was going for. Then I color corrected with Ulta's color correcting palette. I applied the yellow shade underneath my eyes to help combat dark circles. I applied this in a triangular type shape. Really helps to make sure that you don't get that reverse raccoon eye going on. I also applied a little bit to the center of my nose, the center of my forehead, kind of doing like a highlight look with it. And then I applied a little bit of the green shades to the sides of my lips and also to cover up some acne, getting some good color correcting on, making sure that my face doesn't look too red or too dark circly. Then I used a sponge tip applicator. This is kind of like a blender, beauty blender on top of a brush stick, and I just used this in a sweeping motion. You can wet this. I wet it just slightly before use, and to combat like areas on my nose, I used an actual brush because I wanted the precision that a brush can deliver in areas like that. So it's your choice whether you use a beauty blender for your whole face or you alternate between a brush and a beauty blender. I personally like using both sometimes. I'm also using this to blend out the highlight that I did underneath my eyes. And as you see, I just use a sweeping motion, very similar to how you would blend your eyeshadow, but you're doing it to your face. And this is a Sonia K brush. Now I'm using Rimmel's Stay Matte. I'm not baking or anything. I'm just trying to set my foundation. And I'm using this powder. It has a slight color to it. So it's not exactly translucent or sheer. But it definitely helps to set all of my base and just give me just longer wear. And again, a little bit more full coverage. I know it's a little bit ironic because I didn't want full coverage from the foundation, but I knew I would be layering, so I liked that I was able to use two products together and not have it feel cakey or too overwhelming. Now I'm getting to the good part, the Serpentina palette. I'm starting off with Blood Milk and I'm using a fluffier brush and I'm applying it to the outer corner and the inner corner of my eye. This is really going to define the look that I'm going to create. I did apply slightly into the crease as well, and I started to blend up into the brow bone. As you can see, I was very gentle. I'm using my finger to just diffuse the area in the center because I am going to be putting a shadow in there and I want the whole base to be blended out really nicely. Now this color is a little bit hard to work with because it's so pigmented, so you might want to use a base shade under it. I opted not to because I really wanted the punch of this color. It's such a beautiful color. We don't really see red eyeshadows like this often, but if it's a little bit too much for you, just go and put a base shade. Now I'm blending out the edges as to not have an unblended or too sharp of a look on the sides. So I'm using just a clean blender brush to clean up the area primarily like under the brow. Now I'm using a fluffy brush to apply ink, and this is like pretty, this looks like a glittery shade in the palette, but when you're applying it with a fluffier brush, the glitter just goes away. And I honestly just wanted a blacker shade to just deepen the look that I had already went for. I want a little bit more definition. I want a little bit more smoky eye to go on, so that's why I use this. And as you see, I used a fluffier brush rather than a flat brush because I don't want the full intensity of it. I just want a smokier version of it. Now I'm using the pigment that came with the set, and this is Profit, and this is a gold pigment. I'm wetting my brush again with the NYX Matte Finish, and I'm just dipping my moist brush into the pigment. As you see, I can paint it on, and this is super pigmented. This is like the most pigmented shadow that I'm putting on my eyes in this whole look. Now this I want to be full intensity. This is why I let the other colors kind of take the back seat. And after I painted it on, I'm using the blender brush again that I used earlier, and I'm just diffusing the edges. Just because I want the middle full intense doesn't mean that I want it to look unblended, so I'm blending that out. Now I'm applying Profit into the center of the lower lash line, pretty much just to match the top, make it the whole look cohesive. And then to complement Profit in the center of the lower lash line, I'm also applying Onk to the lower lash line as well, and I'm blending that out towards the outer V side and also the inner corner of the eye side. Now I'm applying a black liner pencil to my waterline to really add depth to the whole look. This is optional. You can do this if you want. You can use a black pencil. You can use any color you want, really. Brown if you want a little bit softer look. Now I'm using Kat Von D's Tattoo Liner in Trooper, and I'm creating a winged liner to finish up my eye look before I apply my lashes. As for my brows, and by the way, the lashes are optional. As for my brows, I'm using a combination of Benefit products. I'm using the Goof Proof brow liner. I like how I can fill in. I like the unique shape of this item. Really helps me to just define my brows. I have very prominent, very bushy brows as is, but sometimes you just want to make sure that they're perfectly shaped and groomed before you go and you finish a look. You may be able to skip this step if you have either thinner brows or you do your brows a different way. You can skip this. Then I'm finishing up the filling in of my brows with Gimme Brow, and this really just helps groom my entire brow, gets the shape perfectly the way I want it. Next up, I'm going to be highlighting, and I'm going to be using Anastasia Beverly Hills Glow Kit. This is the Sun Dipped one, and I'm using the shade Summer. I'm using an NYX fan brush. This is a really thick fan brush because I really like to lay it on, loving that glow. Maybe fall, but I don't care. I'm going to glow year round. So I'm applying this to the cheeks, and I'm also applying this to the nose and right above the lip. Now, like I said, the lashes are totally optional, but I went with Vegas Nays, Grand Glamour. I got these at Target. These are kind of my go-to lashes just because they're so glamorous, but they don't look like I'm going to fly off into the sky with my monstrous lashes. So after I've applied that, I'm using the Super BB Insta Ready from Physicians Formula. This is a bronzer, but it's a very soft bronzer. It's not too over the top because the whole point of this look is the eyes and the lips. I'm not trying to go overboard with having like a full done face as well. As for the lips, like I said, these are going to be a little bit bold now. This is not for the mild of heart. And I'm using Bite Beauty from Sephora. I'm using the shade Kale. This is a very dark green, literally almost black shade, and I felt like this would go well with Serpentina just because it kind of goes with the theme of just dark, different, bold colors, and because it only looks green in certain lights, it doesn't really take away from the eye look. I personally feel like it enhances it because it's such a, such a daring shade. So I finished with that, and that completes my Serpentina fall tutorial. So guys, I hope you enjoyed this tutorial as well. I realize these last two tutorials have been a little bit on the vampy side. I will try to bring some softer tutorials. I got some ColourPop coming in, and their shades are a little bit more everyday soft, so be on the lookout for that. As always guys, thank you so much for watching, and please be sure to follow me on Instagram. I'm Recycled Stardust.